If you have ever looked around and wondered how people are affording their lives, you are not alone. Someone in your office just bought a house. A friend from university is posting holiday photos from Lisbon, then Tenerife, then somewhere in Southeast Asia. A neighbour has a new car on the drive, a proper one, not a battered hatchback, and none of them seem to be visibly working themselves into the ground to pay for it. Meanwhile, you are doing what you are supposed to do, saving into your pension, building a small emergency fund, trying not to let lifestyle inflation consume every pay rise. And it still feels like you are falling behind a race nobody told you was happening. Here's the thing. The race is largely fictional, and once you see the actual numbers behind the lifestyles you're observing, the illusion dissolves almost completely. This is not about making you feel better by dismissing other people's achievements. Some people are doing genuinely well, but they are far fewer than they appear to be. And the gap between how things look and how things actually are is, in Britain especially, wider than almost anywhere else. Let us go through it piece by piece. The house. The home is usually the most powerful signal of perceived financial success in Britain. We are a property-obsessed culture. Owning a home, a decent-sized one, in a reasonable area with a garden, is the most visible marker of having made it. So when someone in your social circle buys a place that looks like that, it is natural to assume they must be earning significantly more than you, or sitting on family money, or simply better at this than you are. Almost certainly, none of those things are true. First-time buyers in Britain are increasingly spending 30 to 40% or more of their gross household income on mortgage repayments. That is before tax, before national insurance, before student loan deductions, before pension contributions. The proportion of actual take-home pay going to the mortgage, the money that hits their bank account after all deductions, is considerably higher. A couple with a combined gross income of £70,000 might take home somewhere in the region of £53,000 to £55,000 after tax and NOI. If their mortgage payment is £1,600 a month, which is not unusual in many parts of England, that is more than £19,000 a year, or roughly 35% of their net income before a single other bill has been paid. The house looks like success. What it often actually represents is a substantial portion of the household's available income committed to a single obligation, with considerably less financial flexibility remaining than the postcode suggests. Add in buildings insurance, contents insurance, ground rent or service charges if it is a leasehold, council tax, utility bills that are larger than a renter's, and routine maintenance. And the financial picture behind that appealing front door is often significantly more constrained than it appears from the outside. This is not a criticism of home ownership. It is one of the more structurally sound financial decisions available in Britain for reasons we could spend a separate video on. The point is simply that the house tells you someone has taken on a large long-term financial commitment. It tells you very little about how comfortably they are managing it. The car. If the house is the primary signal of perceived wealth in Britain, the car is the secondary one, and it is, if anything, even more misleading. The majority of new cars registered in the UK are not purchased outright. Personal contract purchase, PCP, has become the dominant model for new car acquisition in Britain. Under a PCP agreement, you pay a deposit, make monthly payments for 2 to 4 years, and then face a choice: hand the car back, pay a substantial final balloon payment to own it, or roll into a new agreement on a newer car. The monthly payment is structured to look affordable. A £35,000 car might have a monthly payment of £350 to £500, depending on the deposit and term. That sounds manageable in isolation, but it is £4,200 to £6,000 per year, not including insurance, fuel, servicing or road tax, before a single other financial priority has been addressed. For someone earning £35,000 gross, which is close to the UK median, the take-home pay is roughly £2,300 to £2,400 per month. A £450 PCP payment represents approaching 20% of their entire monthly income. Add insurance on a newer car, fuel and servicing, and total motoring costs could easily consume 30% or more of take-home pay. The car on the drive tells you someone has committed to a payment. It tells you almost nothing about their financial health. In many cases, it is evidence of the opposite. The median income reality. Here is the number that reframes almost everything else. The UK median full-time salary is approximately £35,000 to £37,000 gross. After income tax, national insurance and, for a graduate, student loan repayments, the monthly take-home from a £36,000 salary is roughly £2,200 to £2,300, £2,200 a month before rent or mortgage, before council tax, before food, transport, utilities, insurance, or any of the other fixed costs that simply exist in adult life, whether you choose them or not. This is the financial reality behind most of the lifestyles you are observing. Not exceptional earnings, not secret windfalls, careful and often very stretched allocation of a limited income across the competing demands of modern life in Britain. When you understand that median, the impressive looking lifestyle stops looking like a sign of superior financial management and starts looking like what it usually is, a series of trade-offs, compromises and financial commitments that look seamless from the outside and are often considerably more stressful from the inside. The bank of mum and dad. There is a structural feature of British financial life that rarely gets discussed openly, despite being increasingly significant. The Bank of Mum and Dad is now estimated to be one of the largest mortgage lenders in the UK by volume of transactions it facilitates. Research consistently shows that a substantial proportion of first-time buyer deposits, particularly in higher cost areas of the country, are funded in whole or in significant part by parental contributions. But it goes considerably further than housing. Surveys suggest that a large proportion of British parents with adult children are providing some form of ongoing financial support, contributing to rent, covering mobile phone bills, subsidising holidays, helping with car costs, or simply transferring money when things get tight. The amounts involved vary enormously, but the pattern is consistent and widespread. This support is almost entirely invisible. The person posting holiday photos does not caption them, partly funded by a transfer from my parents last month. The person in the new flat does not mention that the deposit came from either an inheritance or a parental gift. The financial architecture behind the lifestyle is hidden, and what you see is only the lifestyle itself. This is not a judgment of anyone involved. Parents helping adult children is neither new nor morally complicated. It is a natural expression of wanting the people you love to have an easier time than you did. But it does mean that a significant proportion of the financial lives you are observing are not fully self-funded, and comparing your independently built position to someone else's subsidised one is not a fair or useful comparison. Multi-generational living. There is a related mechanism that is both increasingly common in Britain and almost entirely invisible as a financial advantage. A growing proportion of young British adults, particularly in high-cost areas of London and the South East, live in multi-generational households, with parents, with grandparents, or in family-owned property at significantly reduced or zero rent. From the outside, this arrangement is invisible. You see the social media posts, the disposable income being spent on experiences and things, the apparent financial ease, without seeing that the single largest cost in most adults' budgets, housing, has been partially or entirely removed from the equation. Someone living rent-free or at heavily subsidised rent in a family home earning £32,000 a year has more genuine financial flexibility than someone earning £42,000 and paying £1,200 a month in London rent. The person paying rent has £10,000 more in gross income and considerably less in available cash. The comparison between their financial situations, based on visible lifestyle, is almost meaningless. Multi-generational living is not a sign of failure or dependency. In most of the world, it is simply how families organise themselves. But in a British cultural context where independent living is strongly associated with adult success, it is often invisible, which means its financial advantages are invisible too. What is actually behind the lifestyle? When you put all of this together, stretched mortgage commitments, car finance structured to look affordable, median incomes that do not stretch nearly as far as they appear to, invisible parental support, and the financial advantages of shared housing, a very different picture emerges from the one social media and social comparison present. Most impressive looking lifestyles in Britain are not the product of dramatically higher earnings or superior financial intelligence. They are the product of some combination of large fixed financial commitments that look like assets from the outside, consumer finance structured to make ongoing costs feel smaller than they are, family support that is real but invisible, housing arrangements that reduce costs in ways that do not show up externally, and a cultural norm of not discussing money that ensures nobody ever corrects the impression. The percentage of people who are genuinely thriving, building meaningful net worth, saving consistently, investing regularly, not stretched to the edge of their financial capacity, is smaller than it appears. And the percentage who are managing a carefully constructed appearance of financial ease while carrying considerable stress and constraint behind it is larger than almost anyone admits. Your invisible progress is real. There is a specific kind of financial discipline that is almost entirely invisible, and it is worth naming directly. Saving a meaningful emergency fund in a high-yield account while your peers spend the equivalent on a city break. Making workplace pension contributions above the minimum while the lifestyle around you suggests you should be spending that money now. Driving a car that is paid for rather than taking on a £400 monthly PCP payment for something newer. Resisting the renovation, the upgrade, the experience, the thing, because you understand what it would cost your future self. None of this is photogenic. None of it generates social media content. From the outside, it does not look like anything at all, but from the inside, measured over years rather than months, it is the foundation of every genuinely sound financial position you will ever observe. The people who end up financially free, not appearing financially free, but actually free, are almost universally the people who built quietly, consistently, and without needing it to be visible. What you are seeing when you look at other people's financial lives is the surface. The holiday, the car, the house, the restaurant, the renovation. What you are not seeing is the mortgage that consumes 40% of take-home pay, the PCP commitment that runs for another 3 years, the parental transfer that covered the deposit, the student loan deduction that comes off before the salary even arrives, the credit card balance sitting behind the lifestyle. You are comparing your full picture to their highlight reel, and in Britain, where money is more private, more loaded, and more culturally complex than almost anywhere else, that comparison is even more misleading than it might otherwise be. The race you think you are losing almost certainly does not exist in the form you are imagining it. And the progress you are quietly making almost certainly matters more than it currently feels like it does.